Hi guys, my name's Doug. Welcome to my messy garage. I'm going hunting today, but before I do, I have to unload a new toy. I picked this up yesterday. It's a 1995 Kawasaki Bayou 220. It's in kind of rough shape. It's definitely like it's seen better days, but the price was right. I only paid $100 for it. Supposedly it has no spark, otherwise not too terrible a shape mechanically. The brake cables are all seized up. It's got drum brakes, and throttle and choke cables are also seized. So it's going to take a little bit of work to get it dialed in, but everything should be repairable to the point where the machine will run. I have the seat. It's in the back seat of my truck because I didn't want it blowing away when I haul it home, and I have the cover that goes over the steering assembly here. But I wanted to give you guys a quick little view of it before I unloaded things. We'll continue on with this little project. Thanks for checking this out, and hope you enjoy it. Here we are the next day after I shot the introduction to this video. The only thing I've done so far is fill up the front tire that was flat, and it seems to be holding air. There was a stone wedged in the bead, and I managed to pry that out, no big deal. The other front wheel has a tube in it, and it seems to be holding air, and likewise the backs seem to be doing all right as well. The gentleman that sold me this told me that it had no spark, and he had a quick look at it but didn't get into too much detail. So what I think my plan here is, I want to check the oil, make sure it's got something in it. There's a sight gauge down here, and pull the spark plug out of it. The battery I can pretty much guarantee is junk, and then I'm going to hook up a jumper pack to it, and we'll try turning it over and see if we do get any spark. If we don't get any spark, I've got a wiring diagram I downloaded off the internet. I'm not exactly sure if it's for this year or not, but it should be close enough that we can kind of get an idea what's going on. This relay here is something to do with the neutral safety switch, and I think it's a common problem with these. This is the starter relay here. I'll be able to jump across to see if we've got any power there. The switch for the start, stop, all that stuff is kind of in pieces, and I want to figure out how we go about getting that all put back together. And all of the cables seem like they are seized up, so we'll need to figure that out. Let me put you in a stand and we'll start getting some of these details looked after. So here's our sight glass, and it's hard to see, but there is a oil line kind of midpoint on that sight glass, so I would say we are good with oil. I don't know if I can dip my finger down there and get anything or not. I doubt it. Nope. So we should be good in that regard. We'll grab a spark plug wrench and some tools to disconnect the battery, and we'll see what we can do with this thing. I don't actually need a spark plug wrench. The spark plug is relatively loose. And other than some fuzz from the spider webs that were all over here, the spark plug's brand new and doesn't ever look like it's fired. That's a good sign. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a good spark plug, but that is probably okay. My personal preference is to use a spark plug tester like this. It's got a little neon lamp in there that lights up whenever the spark fires. However, because this has the small end in it, small threaded end, rather than the full-size automotive style tip, we cannot use the conventional tester. We're going to use the old tried and true, stick the plug and connect it up to something that's hopefully grounded, and we'll turn it over and see if we get any spark out of that. Since this battery is pretty much guaranteed to be toast, we'll disconnect this. The battery didn't want to disconnect easily from the positive lead. Not a big deal at this point. What I've done here instead is I've connected up the positive lead from the jumper pack to the other end of that wire, which is the starter solenoid. From the starter solenoid is an internal shunt that takes it out of the starter solenoid and gets onto this white wire. One problem we have with this quad so far is I don't know exactly what year it is. There's a couple of different sites that I've looked at online that list model year based on VIN number, and one of them suggests that this is a 95, another one suggests that it's an 88. According to this wiring diagram, and I'll throw it up as a slide on the screen rather than you guys trying to decipher me pointing at a wilted photocopy. We have our test light, and we can touch one of the terminals, and we have light. The white wire, which has got power, is the main feed that comes from the battery into the electrical system. The negative lead has a heavy wire that goes to the chassis ground, and a lighter wire goes into the remainder of the electrical system. Provides a return path for all of the different electrical components. So we've got power to the output of the solenoid. That's good. From there, it goes into the wiring harness, which is a big pot of spaghetti. It works its way through the pot of spaghetti and comes out at the ignition switch. Ignition switch is on-off key, and it comes into this nice little bundle of wires here. And behind what looks like should be a headlight, but I think it's just a blank cover. Take our trusted test light and check on the white lead. That is the other end of the wire we were just looking at, and we have power. According to the wiring diagram, if we're in the on position, which we are, power coming out of the ignition switch should go to a brown wire, and we have light. That tells us that we have power going through the ignition switch, coming out the other side. So where does it go from there? The wire comes from the brown to a number of different components on the machine, as in headlights, which do not appear to work at the moment. Not a big deal. They also come to the neutral and reverse lights on the dash, neither of which of those working. One of them definitely has a broken wire, and who knows what kind of shape those bulbs are in. But the other item that it goes to is the starter circuit relay. And essentially what this is it's a safety relay that if you're not in neutral, if you're in reverse, those kinds of things, prevents the machine from starting. Engine's not turning over when I hit the button. So let's unplug this. I have a little jumper wire here. Let's try jumping across its contacts. And if we look on the schematic diagram, we can see that the contacts are a black and a black, and the coil trigger is a light green and a brown. And you can see here on the back of the plug that there's light green and brown and a black and a black. So if we go across those two, the machine basically thinks that it's in neutral. I've checked the transmission, we're all the way down, I'm pretty sure we're in neutral. So let's hit the button and see what happens. That definitely sounds promising. But do we have spark? Here you can see I've got the spark plug resting up against the head, or the top of the cylinder here. I wasn't sure we were going to get a good ground just attaching it to the shield here with a tie wrap. So let's see what we get. We indeed have no spark. Okay, we kind of knew that. Now we just need to keep troubleshooting. So we have the starter relay bypassed. That puts power to the start button, which is obviously working because when we press it, it turns the engine over. We have the engine stop start switch, which appears to be a normally open contact, which when we put it in the run position, we should have power. Let's put the test light on there and see if we've got anything. Hey, we've got headlights. At least one. Turn those off so I don't kill the battery. Okay, we've got power to the start stop switch. Now we've got a yellow and red, which I can see. Done a little bit of digging around here. This is the CDI ignition module. This is basically the brain box that fires the coil. Kind of replaces the points and condenser in an old style ignition. And it requires voltage. According to wiring diagram, the voltage should be coming in on a black lead, which is essentially connected to the other end of that relay that we bypassed. So, looking at the wires, we have a strictly black wire here. We take our test light and we do not have any power on either of those leads. So what this means is that we are not getting any power to the CDI box. No power to the CDI box, no fire to the coil. Let's chase back through this. This wire comes up and loops around the top, kind of hung with a tie wrap, and comes into a bundle of wires here. Cut some tie wraps and see if we can figure out what's going on here. Black and the red go into what I'm assuming is the stator. Well, I think we've identified what's going on here. I figured out the voltage source for the CDI box. It comes off the stator basically with the alternator signal that goes to the voltage regulator. The stator signal comes up and into the CDI box. It's like 46 volts AC, and we're not getting anything out of the CDI box. So I have ordered a new CDI box. It's a whole whopping like 26 bucks from Amazon, and that should be in a few days. But I think that means we're going to end this one here. Definitely made some progress. We can turn the motor over and started getting the front plastics off here. I've got a seized bolt over on the other side. I'm going to let soak with some PB Blaster, and then I will go at getting it off. I'll get the rest of this off. We'll clean up these mounting brackets and give everything a good going over. But I think pretty much that should get us a functioning engine, putting that CDI box in, and then we can start looking into other stuff. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you in the next mess.